Our last unit in Honors Math 2 to review is Unit 12. Unit 12 was a formula unit, and I'm still in discussion right now with Mr. Vang about whether or not we're going to give you formulas or not. He's originally said he was not planning on giving formulas, which I am going to try to convince him to do so, and that way we're doing the same thing. We'll see how that goes. Right now I'm still thinking or considering that I want you to know how to use the formulas, not necessarily do you know how to memorize formulas from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and 13. So let's review real quick. First and foremost, we learned arithmetic and we learned geometric. And so there was a formula to figure out what any term number was in an arithmetic sequence. That formula is A of n equals, we'll go back over here, DNA, if you remember that one. Arithmetic is the explicit formula for any arithmetic sequence is the common difference times the term number plus the term before the first term. What else did we need to know for an arithmetic sequence? We learned how to find its sum. The sum of an arithmetic sequence is called an arithmetic series. It's how many term numbers you have times by the sum of the first plus the last. We did the same thing for geometric. We called this one Arnold. A lot of times I put R in parentheses just so I would remember that it's just the R to the n minus 1 power. And then the sum of a geometric sequence, knowing that there was a finite amount. That's if it was finite. And then the sum of an infinite was also there. We did A of 1 divided by 1 minus R. Those were the 5 things that we used. A lot, not counting 6 and 7, were what's the common difference and what's the common ratio. We did those as well. You may need D, you may need R. We'll talk about that if we need to in the examples that I have picked out for you. So the ones I want to do with you, I tried to specifically pick ones that we're going to have a little bit of trouble with. It says I picked 105. Find the sum of 3 plus 8 plus 13 plus ... all the way up to 103. The first thing I have to figure out is it arithmetic or is it geometric? Let me see. I'm adding 5. I'm adding 5. It looks like I'm adding 5 every single time, right? So if I want to know the sum of an arithmetic sequence, here's what you need to know. I need to know the first. I have it. I need to know the last. I have it. I need to know how many term numbers I have. It's not 103. That's the last term number. I got to know how many terms that is. So we have to do an additional step to find out what n is. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to write out an equation first. We're going to have to figure out what DNA plus 0 is for this sequence. So here's what I would do if I were you for 105. What I would do if I were you is I would write out A of n equals dn plus a sub 0 off to the side. And as I'm looking at 105, I know that it's going up by 5 every single time. But what would A of 0 be? What would the term be before the first term? I think it would be negative 2. And I want to know what term number the value of 103 is. If 103 is the last term, what term number has a value of 103? That's what I'm going to solve. Now, once I find this, then I'll be able to go and plug it into this other formula to find out what the sum is. I'm going to add 2. Plus 2 plus 2. Divide by 5. I think that's 51, right? No? 21. Thank you. 5 good. Yeah, that makes sense. 21. So this is our 21st term right there. If I want to find the sum of this, now I have all 3 parts that I need to find the sum, which is 21 divided by 2 times by the first plus the last. So to figure this out, I'm going to do 21 divided by 2 using parentheses, 106. And I'm getting 1,113 for my answer. The reason why I picked number 105 was because you can't assume that you're going to add up every single one by hand. You're going to add all 21 numbers up. You could. I think the formula is faster. 107. What's the sum of the first 70 terms of this? I am adding 3. I'm adding 3. I'm adding 3. Well, what's the problem with this one? We have how many terms? We have the first term, but do you know the last term? It's not given to you. You're going to have to calculate what that is. Well, how do you do that? You write your formula. Let's go ahead and put 107 right down here. And what I'm going to do for that formula is I'm going to write out A of n is equal to D. I'm going up by 3 units every single time. I want to know what the 70th term is. Plus A sub 0. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. If I want to know what that last term is, I make a formula to find what value has, what value is the 70th term number. Once I find that value, now I can use the sum formula because I'm not going to add up 70 terms. It's arithmetic. How many term numbers do I have? We have 70. The first term number is a 1. The last term number is 208. 35 times 209. I'm getting 7,315. Awesome. I love that number, 315. It's one of my favorite numbers. Why? Because that's what room you're in. In case you didn't know. Number 111. Find the sum of the first 8 terms of 2 plus 6 plus 18 plus 54. Wait a second, something's different. We're not adding the same thing, we're multiplying. So now we're talking about a geometric sequence. For a geometric sequence, to find the sum, we got to know what the common ratio is. We got to know how many terms, and we got to have the first term. I don't even need to know the value of the last term. That's a good thing. So I'm going to use this formula. A of 1, I know what that is. 1 minus R. R, I'm multiplying. Stands for the common ratio. I'm multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3. How many term numbers do you have? 8 of them. Over 1 minus 3. Do not try to simplify anything. The biggest mistakes I saw in people's tests when I was grading this one was that people tried to reduce things or tried to do the 1 minus 3. That's Brake's order of operations. Just plug it in the way that you see it. 2, parenthesis, fraction button. 1 minus 3 to the 8th power. 1 minus 3. The calculator knows the order of operations. It will do it for you. 6,560. You have to get used to, how do I plug it in? Don't try to simplify things that you can't. You can't put this together because then you're breaking order of operations. Can you put this together? Yes, you can. You can make that -2. Totally fine to do. Last question. Find 2 arithmetic means between 9 and 30. What's an arithmetic means? It means that this is an arithmetic. It's going to be adding and subtracting the same amount. Like if this is your first term, this would be second term, and third term, this would be your fourth term. Well, you got to know what the common difference is. How do you do that? You do the value minus that value, the change in value, over the change in term number. 30 minus 9 is 21. 4 minus 1 is 3, which means your common difference means it's adding 7 every single time. Well, if you're adding 7, 9 plus 7 would make this 16. 16 plus 7 would make that 23. And then if we did it correctly, 23 plus 7 should equal that next number, and what do you know? It works. There's my 2 answers. I'm hoping that reminds you how to do the majority of these things. Some things I didn't cover, but that only leaves you with 7 homework questions. We'll stop right there.